Welcome MA3 community. In this video we present the all-new Ultra version of our MA3 template Showfile v2. This includes a lot of powerful new tools like our virtual Preselect layouts, which allow you to enter a special virtual mode for all the layouts in the Showfile, where you can then pick new content and fire it whenever you're ready. And along with that, we have integrated the entire new page per song and timecode section to allow you to structure your content along different songs for pages and sequences easily, and also handle timecode. And to make it even better, we have built new store macros which allow you to store the Busking content from the show file into sequences, keeping all the recipes alive. So let us directly start with our new virtual Preselect layouts. As you have seen some seconds ago, there's now the possibility to switch into a virtual mode where all layouts get a red background color. This red color always indicates that you're currently in the virtual mode, and selections that are done in here will not directly affect your live output. To work with the virtual Preselect layouts, we have a toolset of 5 different elements for you. The first one is our take button. Take will always take the entire virtual content to your live content and consequently to your live output. To give you an example here, I will select a white color for all of my fixture groups and afterwards hit the take button. And as you can see, the color switches to white. The cool thing here is that it will always make use of the fade time that is set in the show file. So for example, if I set this fade time to 0 and switch back to red, this will be a hard switch without a big fade time. So let's continue our journey with the second button, which is our combine feature. The combine feature comes in really handy if you're basically satisfied with your live look but want to make only small changes. So for example, currently we have a lot of things going on in our virtual Preselect layouts, and the first thing we want to do is to clear them. Therefore you can hit the X icon, so button number 5. After this is done, we think about the changes we want to make. So the first thing we want to do, for example, is to put our spots on white, give them maybe a tight zoom, and that's basically it. If I would now use the take button, it would just put the spots of group A to white with a tight zoom. But the light output would be at 0 for all of your groups and there would be no other color. So to prevent this, there's the combine feature. If we hit combine, we will see that only the color will change and the zoom level. So let's try this out. There you go. You got your spots as beams in white. If you now want to work on this look further, button number 3 and button number 4 comes in place. Button number 4 is a capture button. It will basically do the opposite of the take button. So it will put your live output to your virtual layouts. Let's try this out. I will hit it and afterwards you will find the same settings in your virtual Preselect layouts. Now I can modify them. For example, we will put all our fixtures, let's do a deep purple and leave our spots on white. And after this is done, I can use button number 3, which is a swap, and it will basically do the same of button number 1 and 4 at the same time. So your virtual layouts will become the live ones and the live ones will become the virtual ones. So basically you can just quickly hop between 2 different looks which live in your live and virtual layouts. After you know this section down below, let us focus on the upper section, which we call impact looks and which is even more powerful, because what you can do here is you can store the content from your live or virtual Preselect layouts into slots. To work with those looks, you get another set of 6 buttons up here. They have the same functionality like the buttons down below, but they will always work in combination with the look that is currently selected and always refer, depending on their icon style, to your live or virtual layouts. If they have this little red corner, they will always capture, take or combine a look to or from your virtual layout. And if they are just with this black style, they will always refer to the live layout. As an example, we will now store 2 different looks. The The first look that we want to store is the look from our live output, and we will just modify it slightly to an entire blue look before we store it. Then we select the storage slot that we want to use. I have already labeled this one blue, and I will show you later how this can be done. After the slot is selected, simply hit the capture button up here as you want to capture this look from your live layout. As a second look, we will capture the look from our virtual layout, put this to an entirely red look, select the slot, hit this capture button down below here because we want to capture it from our virtual layout, and that's it. You're ready and done and can now recall these looks whenever you want. To show this real quick, I will move back to my live layouts, put all my fixtures to a white color, and maybe set also another positions here. After this is done, simply select the look you want, hit the take button, and you will get this look back on stage. Taking back a look from a storage slot to your live output is probably the common understanding of a playback system. But it gets even more powerful if you take those looks to the virtual layouts, because you can then edit them further in blind. For example, if you know that you have a look which is a good starting point, but not 100% the look you want. So think of a situation where your blue look is a close call. So I will just select it and take it to my virtual Preselect layouts. And for my situation right now, I need this one to be in yellow, and I want all my spots to have a very tight beam. After I have modified this now, I could for sure directly take this look to live using the take button down below, or I could maybe just save it for my intro show later on and use the capture button with this little red corner. So now it's in there, and I can simply play it back to my live layout and switch back to red and so on. So I think you got the basic principle. Before we close the section of virtual Preselect layouts and impact looks, let me give you another 3 tips related to this topic. The first one is that you can easily assign those buttons also to your hardware layout. Therefore, I have prepared a new view with my X keys. To do so, use the standard assign workflow of MA3. So enter the assign keyword by, for example, hitting an assign key, then select the button that you want to assign, and afterwards just click the executor or X key of your choice. In that way, you can basically assign everything to your X keys. For example, your take, the combine, the swap and capture, or let's do also the clear here. And for sure it makes sense to get a quick access on the switch between live and virtual layouts. But maybe it makes also sense for you to get a quick access on a slot to select this real quick and fire it back directly to your live layout nearby. As mentioned some minutes ago, there's a way to label those slots easily. And this can be done with our new label macro. This lives in the macro pool of your show file. You can, for example, find it here starting on pool item 501. For this video, I have simply put my macro pool up here to get a quick access on them. Working with this label macro is really easy. Simply hit it, enter your new name. Let's do YouTube for this test purpose. Hit please or the enter key on your keyboard, and afterwards just click a layout element, for example this slot. And as you can see, you will get this label right there. The cool thing about the label macro is that it can label everything that lives in a layout view. So you can also use this for your override section here. Let's try this out. We do a YouTube 2, for example. Hit please and replace maybe our drum position. And as you can see, it labels also the override section. You can also label other things in the show file with this tool, maybe if you want to make a small note for one FX that looks quite good in your opinion. As you might have noticed, there is a second macro in this area called delabel, and I think this is quite self-explaining. Hit it, hit a label, and it is gone. That's it. If you don't feel like hitting a storage slot first to select a look and then hitting a second button to take this look to live, we have another solution for you. Therefore, move over to the macro pool of your show file and you will find, starting with pool item 421, direct fire macros. Those will directly take a look to life without the need to hit another button. So you could also assign them to your hardware layout to get a real quick access on all your different looks. Tip number 3 that I want to give you is related to our new tri-state concept, which we have introduced for intensity control and also other elements, for example, like our new strobe control section up here. To show this more in detail, I have prepared another view, which includes our sequence sheet and a larger scale version of our IFX and intensity control layout. In the previous versions of our show file, we had only 2 states for intensity control. The white state, which indicated that there's a sequence actively playing back dimmer on values for your corresponding fixture group, and the black icon, which indicated that there's no playback at all, so the sequence is off. Now we have this third state in the middle, which we call active off. And if we simply select a sequence using the select command and look at this closely in our sequence sheet, then we can see that what we do by clicking on this icon here is basically hopping between dimmer on and dimmer off, but both with active playbacks from this sequence. To off it entirely, we have to use the off command, for example using an off key and hitting it. Then you will get the entirely black icon back again and the sequence is off. During the operation of the show file, there's basically no need to get back to this state, but the state of active off is relevant for the work with virtual preselect layouts. As an example, we set intensity to on again for our spot group A. Then we move to our virtual preselect layouts and think about a scenario where we want to use the combine function to set the intensity of group B to on and group A to off. Therefore, it is now important that you set B on and A to the active off state. Just keeping it on the inactive off state won't change anything if you use the combine function. If I hit it now, we will get the result we wanted. So washes of group B are active, spots of group A are inactive. With this little hint on the active off state in the show file, we want to close the section of virtual preselect layouts and impact looks for this video and move on to the brand new page per song and timecode section. Therefore, first we will have a look at a console to give you a brief overview on all the functions. What you will get with the new page per song and timecode tools is basically an intelligently built view to manage your song along with some macros to handle playback and organize and structure all of your songs and their corresponding content. Some tools are pre-configured on your pages to quickly hop between previous and next song, activate and deactivate timecode. Another view just showing the timecode view to allow you to easily store things on your timeline, and a bunch of additional store macros which are there to take your busking content from the show file into sequences, keeping the recipes alive so that you can easily work with the content creatively from your busking part and use it for page per song or timecode shows. Before we jump into it, please note that you might get the best experience when using a light console or a similar setup. So a setup, for example, with 2 screens and also some hardware elements. The reason for that is quite simple. You will probably need quick access both on this page per song view, maybe an additional timeline to record things on your timecode, and also those special store macros. So if you're not using a setup like this, please be familiar with arranging views and also assigning macros to some hardware keys. Okay, so let's jump into it and start with our page per song view. Therefore, I will navigate to display number 2 of my onPC system. The reason is that I want to show you that you can find those views, the timecode and page per song view, which is the magical one of those two, directly here assigned to your view bar. If you move to display 1, so maybe in the scenario that you're working on a laptop or having an onPC system with just one screen, you have to scroll down in your view bar and you will find the same views also here, starting with pool item 11. So here you will also find the timecode and page per song view. At the very top of this view, you will find the main song macros. They can be used to navigate between the different songs. So if I hit song 2, I will jump to the corresponding page and also select the corresponding timecode item. Along with that, the Showfile will also navigate you to a certain sequence range in here. If you watch closely, we are now at pool item 9021 here, and if I hit song 3, we jump to sequence pool item number 9041. So you will always get a range of 20 sequences to put in your content related to a certain song. The macros in this second row here are also there for navigation. The first 3 of them will allow you to navigate between your different song ranges, and the last one will always bring you back to the currently selected song. The macro next to it will basically do the same thing, as it calls this macro number 255 and updates your view. But in addition, it will also select the corresponding selected page and also call this view actively to your screen too. If you're not happy with that because you're maybe working with just one screen or you want it on screen 1, simply change this behavior in this macro. By default, we have also configured this macro to live on your X key. You will find it here, return to PBS. The next line of macros gives you some global control. Off all will off all your sequences and all your timecodes for all of your songs at the same time. Go all will basically do the inverse thing, but as going all your sequences doesn't make sense, it does not go your sequences. It does simply go your timecodes and also do a top command on them, which means that they are at the starting point of their timeline. Let's skip this auto off enabled macro and first look at our update song names macro. This is there to give you the chance to easily name pages and timecodes according to your song title. Therefore, simply edit the title of the main song macro. For example, let's do a test here and maybe YouTube song there. After you have set the song names, simply hit it and you will get pages and timecode elements named in the same way. Macro number 5 allows you to set a timecode offset between your different songs. This is cool to ensure that you get another level of security in terms of playback due to different positions on your timeline. After hitting the macro, you can enter your value in minutes, and I will do 15 minutes as this is quite a reasonable value here in my experience. After confirming this, you can check the different timecodes using the edit setting command. Just hit an edit key twice. Then we will see that song 1 starts at 0, song 2 starts now at 15 minutes, song 3 starts at 30 minutes, and so on. You might have noticed in the background that there are some further macros, but they have a different color. And this simply indicates that they are always related to a specific song. So in green, you will find global control macros. In gray, you will find macros that relate to the current song. So now we are still at song 3 and they will just keep their naming with S3 for song 3. And if I move on, you will get the same macros for your song 4. Those two macros here will basically do the exact same thing like the global off and go macros, but only related to song 5. Previous and next allow you to jump to the next or previous song, and clear will clear the entire song. This includes sequences, also playbacks assigned to the page, and other arrangements that are made. So you will get an entirely empty song with our initial setup. So for example, those basic macros off and go, previous and next, and the main sequence also assigned to the first executor of that page. In combination with next and previous, also auto off will get relevant. Auto off enabled means that you will automatically off sequences of the song you're jumping from when using next or previous. If you hit this macro, it will change its labeling and tell you that it's now disabled or enabled. Let's do a quick example here. Therefore, I will quickly store a sequence in the range of song 6 and go it. After the sequence is active, I will use my next macro to navigate to song 7, and then we can simply hop back. And as you can see, the sequence in here was deactivated. On the last 4 macros down here, there's not much to say. These are just a simple way of setting the timecode slot for your song. At this point of the video, please note that this video does not claim to be a full tutorial on how to timecode your show. This would take way longer to explain, and you need the basics and fundamentals of MA3 and timecoding if you want to use this tool effectively. We are offering you a tool, but we cannot handle support in basic questions on how to timecode and so on. But for sure, we will show how it basically works, and I think you should be able to figure it out as there are many YouTube videos out there showing how to timecode. Before we come to the fun part and store some looks from our Busking content to the song pages using the store macros, let me give you another important advice. The navigation system in this view is based on Lua plugins in the background of the Showfile. This means that you cannot fully configure this view freely. You can try, for example, to delete some elements in here and bring in some new ones. Let's do, for example, this. And then simply store the view as usual to the PPS view slot or view button right there. As you will see right here, the navigation is still alive, but we do not guarantee this behavior, especially if you delete a lot of elements in here and try to entirely redesign this view. To show you all the powerful store tools, I have created a new view where we have our playbacks, so our executor section of the current page, a sequence sheet, and those store macros along with our X keys. The first thing we want to do is build a new look using our Busking layout. Therefore, I use the macro on my X key to jump back to the Busking page and Busking view, and then quickly build a new look. Let's do a look in full blue, maybe with those elements, our icons, and let's do another group of moving lights with a fan out position. So this one, we don't need that. And that's it. We want to use this look as a starting point. After this is done, we jump back to our view with the store macros and our playbacks for song 1. So we're currently at the page for song 1. With those store macros, I have now some options to capture this newly created Busking look. The first option, Capture All, will basically capture the entire Busking look to a sequence or an executor that is selected after clicking this macro. So let's try this. So I click the Capture All macro and directly afterwards a sequence or an executor of my choice. Capture All will always use the next free cue in a sequence to store your look. So I hit it, and after that we will find all the content from our Busking layout in a magical way in this Q1. Let us directly store another look into that sequence to show you some functionalities of those different store macros. Therefore, I move back to my show layout, and I want to now store the exact same look but containing a red color instead of blue. Then we switch back and we use this Capture All macro again, hit it, and afterwards the same executor. In theory, this is fine, but if you want to use sequences in a meaningful way using their tracking feature, it's not a good idea to store all those dimmer values and so on again into this Q2 because they are already existing in Q1. And therefore, Capture Diff comes in place. So let's try the Capture Diff feature. Therefore, we will move back to our show layout, switch again back to our blue look, and afterwards hit Capture Diff and our executor of this sequence. After that, you will find a Q3 in here which contains only the blue color values, so only the content between your last stored Busking look and the current Busking look. So simply think of it like starting an empty new record using capture all, and then afterwards being able to capture only the difference and the changes that have been made between using the capture all and the capture diff macro. Okay, so I think it's time for testing this new sequence here. To do so, I will first deactivate the entire busking sequences in the show file. Therefore, we can use this macro. After this is done, I hit the executor go, and as you see, the blue sequence or our blue look is back, and we can jump through it to red and afterwards to blue again. So we have successfully stored the content from different sequences of our busking layout into one. And that's pretty cool because you can now use all the busking content as a creative starting point. To make this tool even more versatile, the entire content is stored into recipes, which is indicated by this little yellow icon here. To check those recipes, simply move over to the mask and allow show steps and show recipes. After that, you can check the recipes of those single cue parts. So you will find in cue part number 1 of Q3 the selection group 1 or group A, add its feature group color preset blue. So basically each and every cue part does one thing, putting one group to a special value, for example a color value, a dimmer value, or a fan, so a position value. After we have understood the basic principle of capturing busking looks to sequences, let's focus on those other macros here. Start diff will not directly store anything. It will set a new baseline when hitting it for your capture diff macros. That means after hitting it, capture diff will refer to the changes that are made in your busking layout after hitting this macro and not after storing a last look. So let me give you an example. Therefore, we switch to our show layout and set all our fixtures to a pink color. Then we head back again to our store macros, hit start diff, and then do some changes. For example, we want to set our spot group A, but only spot group A, to white. And we want to store this now. So we head back, use capture diff to only store the difference, hit the executor, and after that you will find a Q4 in here containing only the white color of spot group A, but not the rest of it, so not our pink colors. So we have successfully stored only the difference of our busking content after hitting the start diff macro. To show you this a bit better, let's off our busking content and go to Q4. As you can see, our fixtures of group A are at white and the rest still remains on blue from Q3. The macros down below here will basically do the exact same thing, so either capture your entire look or only the difference, but they will do it to the next free sequence of your song selection. If you remember, there's always a sequence pool ready for each song. So if I would now use one of those macros, we would start storing this to a new sequence in this area or in this sequence range. So starting with the empty sequence 9002. So let's try this out. Before we can store a new look to this next free sequence, for sure we need a new content in our busking layout. And to show this to you, I will use the offPPS macro. This will deactivate all sequences coming from your page per song areas. So this is handy to just get a good overview on what's actually coming from your busking layout and not getting messed up with content that is played back from maybe a stored and active sequence in here. Then we switch to the show layout, create a new look quickly. So let's do a look in purple, maybe like this. Yeah, should be fine for the moment. And then head back and use the capture all next sequence macro. And as expected, we stored this content to sequence 9002. And we also directly assigned this sequence to the next free executor of this current song page. And we think this feature comes in really handy, especially when assigning it, for example, to one of your hardware keys, so an X key, for example, and then just staying in the show layout and storing looks real quick, for example, for different stages in your song. So we switch, for example, to an orange, hit the macro, get directly our next sequence on our page executor. We switch to green, maybe activate another fixture group, deactivate this fixture group B, hit it again, and get our next sequence with this content. So you can be really, really fast on creating new sequences containing new looks. Okay, so let's continue our journey through those store macros down here. As they are quite self-explaining, I will not do an example here, but just quickly describe them. Capture diff will, as expected, capture the differences, so like the capture diff macro up here, to your next free sequence, and capture diff next Q will do the exact same thing, but use the next free Q in the sequence that was used last. You might have wondered why we have not stored any FX contents so far into those sequences. No worries, it works basically the same thing, and you can also easily store FX into sequences. But there are some points that you should keep in mind when doing this. So let's check this out. Okay, so we move to our show layout, select maybe a chaser for group A, maybe a movement for our group B like this, and for group D we also use this intensity FX. After that, we head back to our store macros and store the entire look to a new executor. Then we do a off busking to deactivate all busking content and test the new sequence. And as you see, it works perfectly and you got all your FX back, also using the playbacks from this sequence. To do a quick check on this, we use our select key to look into the sequence using the sequence sheet. And here we will now also find those relative values for intensity and positions, so the dynamic values for our FX. But there are two logical restrictions when storing FX to sequences. The first one is that you will lose FX sizes, because FX sizes are based on temp faders with higher priority sequences in it that just limit the effect size. And this cannot be stored into a single queue at the moment in the world of MA3. The second limitation is that you will lose the speed levels of your FX. The reason for that is simple. You have two speed masters running in the Showfile, one for movement FX and the other one, our song speed master, for intensity and color FX. They are used in the corresponding sequences of the busking part in the Showfile. So if you now store a new sequence, this link is broken. To compensate for the FX size issue, we recommend storing FX content as a separate sequence and then playing it back using a temp fader to control the size of the FX. If we, for example, want to create just a slight movement, maybe for this first blue entry look of our main song sequence, then we can simply move over to the show layout and select the effects that we want. So we do a circular movement on spot group A, and we do a pan movement on our spot group E. Then we head back, use the capture all macro, and hit a new empty executor. After that, we can use the off-basking macro and use our assign key to change the behavior of the sequence to a temp fader. Then we can raise this fader up slightly to get only a small movement, so a reduced FX size on this circle and a pan effect that we've just created. And that's our basic recommendation for the work with reduced or limited FX sizes in this context. Now let's focus on the second issue, so the broken link to our speed levels. To show you our workaround, I will build an entirely new simple look. I will use my Titan tubes in the background and maybe put this chaser on them. Then I will raise up my speed level until this FX is quite fast. We will then also store this FX to a new sequence. So like that. And if we now off our busking content and activate the sequence, we will see that the FX looks the same, but it is way slower. To compensate for that in a reliable way, we have created the capture song speed macro. This macro allows you to easily store the current value of your song speed master as a command into a queue. To make use of it, simply hit the macro and directly afterwards your target sequence. It will then store this command into the first queue or an active queue if there is an active queue in that sequence. We will then use select and check this sequence or the command in here. There you go. You will find this command in your Q1 of your FX sequence that sets the FX master to the value that we've set initially in our busking part. So by doing that, we have captured the speed of our song speed master into this Q number 1. And don't get confused by our slow FX running still on our output. This is still the FX that is played back from our sequence, but there's no speed master set in the sequence, and that is why it is that slow. And we have to change that. Therefore, we navigate to the settings and set our speed master of the sequence to song speed. And there we go. We get our fast FX back. Due to this command, I will always get back the correct FX speed even if I modify the song speed maybe for a different song or some busking parts on my show. And after hitting the go of the sequence, it will return to my stored speed level. Before we close this little FX breakout session in the video, let me give you another important advice regarding color FX. Due to our Showfile structure and its color FX, which use release values, it is not possible to store color FX into one sequence. You always need a base sequence containing your main look and the base color, and then a second sequence for your FX. In our way of thinking and programming, this is not a big issue because it is basically a good idea to store FX separately anyway. So also, for example, in terms of FX sizes and so on. And in the end, you will probably always have something like a main cue list for a song where you will have the base look including a color. As a quick example, I will use my main cue list of song number 1 as a starting point, so this blue look, and will now build a color FX around it. I want to do a red color FX with this blue base look, and I want to do it for my spot group E. I quickly switch to my CFX layout and apply a color FX. For example, like that. We head back, use the capture all, select executor of our choice, and that's it. After offering my busking content, I can play back this color FX using this newly created sequence. And that's how it works. So simply use a base look with your base color and then create a color FX using the FX form and the corresponding FX color. Finally, I would like to give you an important tip regarding intensity levels in the show file. When working with the busking part of it, you can use those playback masters to control the intensity of the individual fixture groups. The issue here is that it's not possible to use those playback master levels when storing sequences. To compensate for that, I have to adapt it manually in this sequence. There are some ways of doing it. For example, you could change the recipe in here, but you could also simply move to the group that you want to change, for example, group E in my case, reduce your dimmer value, let's bring it down to maybe 18 or 20%, simply hop back and store this into the Q1. And I will use store for that, click on it and say merge. And that's basically it. After this, you're good to go, and you can clear the programmer, and the sequence is now adapted with this new level of intensity. After we have completed our song page, so set up all the sequences and maybe also added some extra bumps in here, we could theoretically start timecoding our show. I will do a real quick example on this just to show the basic principle, but as mentioned in the previous part of the video, this video does not claim to be a full timecode tutorial. The first thing I want to do is to check my timecode settings and therefore move over to my page per song manager view. And I will, for this demo purpose, set my timecode settings to internal. I don't want to use an external timecode slot here. I just want to use the internal timeline of my song 1. After this is done, we can head back. Then we need some kind of timeline view. I could use this one if I have real hardware keys on my desk. And to show this a bit better to you, I've just created a second view where I still have my playback section up here. So there's my timeline view for my song 1, so the selected one. To be able to record things into your timecode, enter the setup and hit the record button. And there you go. Timecode is running, or at least your timeline in here is running, and you can start working on your show. So I will start with my blue intro look, then maybe add my red color FX, also add our super fast red color chaser, which includes also the colors for my other fixtures, because we used a capture all on this. And then maybe I will ramp up my temp fader with those movement FX, for example like that, to get a movement in here. And that's basically it. You successfully time-coded a show. So all of your actions should be captured in here correctly in your timeline. It's now a bit small, but I think you got a basic principle, and you can see all of your sequences in here together with the corresponding actions. So for example, the movement of your temp fader. To check it out, simply hop back in your timeline and maybe off all active sequences in advance and hit the play button. After that, you can enjoy the show. So first, we should get our blue entry look back. We can scroll up and see when it's happening right there. Now we will get the red color FX as an add-on. Then we will switch to our crazy fast red chaser with all lights in red. And then we will here, if we reach this section, see how our temp fader will rise up, bringing in the movement for our spot group E. And there we go. We get our movement. And that's basically it. Here I can give you another tip. You can also use our macros off song 1 and go song 1 to play around with this timecode. Off will deactivate it, and go, as it is an internal timecode that we've set for timecode 1, will top and also run, so start the timecode in here. If you would select an external timecode source, this wouldn't be the case. Then it would be just active listening for timecode signals coming from the external slots. But as it is an internal timeline that we've selected for timecode 1, the go, so a go command on this timecode 1 will directly run it. And that is it. You have basically seen all the new main features of our all-new Ultra version of our MA3 template Showfile v2. But before we close the video, I want to show you some general enhancements that can be found in our latest version of the Showfile that will soon be available for all 3 versions, so Lite, Pro and Ultra. The first general enhancement is our label tool, which comes in place when labeling slots and overrides. I've shown this some minutes ago in the video when working with our impact looks. The second enhancement is that we have further developed our bump area. It is now called QA area, for quick assign area. We will do some other things here in the future, even more powerful, but for the moment we have introduced a MISC section for each of your fixture groups. And here you will find a FX block sequence, IFX, PFX and CFX size control elements, so sequences, that can be used as a temp fader to reduce your IFX, PFX or CFX size only for a single fixture group. Please be aware of that the FX block sequence will not work directly. You have to set up a special group first. Simply store your fixtures in the group called FX block. It is there for each and every fixture category. The reason for an extra group here is quite simple. We found it really helpful to have an easy opportunity to block the FX only for some certain fixtures on an event. For example, think about a scenario where you have a big rig of fixtures and you need some of them maybe for ambient or background lighting in the beginning of the party. But when the party kicks in and gets messy, you want to use the entire rig with your FX. And there you go, you could simply use the FX block with some special fixtures in here at the beginning. And as a last new feature in this update, I want to show you our auto-generated groups. After setting up your SimRig Group A and after running your region groups, you will get those new auto-generated groups up there. The idea behind those groups is just to give you some extra stuff for programming. Odd even is, I think, quite self-explaining. Left and right is intelligently built on the width of your selection grid, so depending on the width on your x-axis, and up and down does the exact same thing, so it splits your selection grid into two parts along your y-axis. And that is it regarding all the new features of our Ultra version and the corresponding general new update. As a last step, I want to switch to our website and show you some elements here. First, if you are convinced after watching the video and you think the Ultra version is the right tool for you and you already own a Showfile, you can scroll down and use our upgrade page. Here you will find several options to upgrade. For example, you can upgrade from Lite to Pro, from Lite to Ultra, Pro to Ultra, and from V1 to V2 Ultra. This is a special one. So if you bought initially our V1 Showfile, you have to use this if you want to access Ultra. Simply enter your order ID in one of those fields, hit the upgrade button, and you will get a special store link which leads you to a store where you can buy the corresponding Showfile version only for the price difference. If you not own a Showfile yet, you can head back to MA3 developments and check for our products. By clicking on this text here, you will directly get to the product page of our brand new template Showfile V2. When you will see this video, this button here is ready and should look like this. Simply hit it and you can get the Ultra version directly. And if you scroll down here a little bit on this product page, you will find a list of our YouTube videos that are related to the Showfile. So make sure to watch those videos before using the Showfile, or at least check out those keywords in here when looking for some specific help. For sure, we will also put this Ultra version release video in here, and as a next video we are planning a tutorial on how to work with really complex fixture types. If you have any special wishes in terms of fixture types for this next tutorial, for example, you want to see in color strike amps or Aura XIP, let us know and simply post your thoughts in our YouTube comments for this video here. And that really brings us to the end of this video. So thanks for watching and your support of our Showfile project.